Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the final event of the Open Project. My name is Chiara Alonzo. I am a project manager at ARES 2.0 and coordinator of the Open Project. The event is going to take about 4 hours. It's streamed on Facebook and YouTube, so you can also join and follow us on both platforms. And the event is going to be divided in 3 different steps, in 3 different moments. In the first one, my colleague Umberto and I will present the Open Project, its rationale, and the main activities and outputs produced, with a special focus on research outputs and communication campaign. Afterwards, the second part will house the volunteers and representatives from partner organizations that will describe the involvement and the experience in the project, and also share their views about the measures tested in the last 2 years, that is to say, during the Open Project. And at the end, a roundtable will welcome different stakeholders invited to discuss about 3 main points. First of all, the isolation and identity issues among Muslim youth living in Europe. New media communication campaign as a tool to fight radicalization and the polarization processes among Muslim youth living in Europe. And the third point that will be covered during the roundtable will be about the potentialities of civil society organizations and the grassroots movements to overcome the Islamic radicalization online. The event will also include, of course, a question and answer session, and will close after the conclusions will be developed. In any case, before going into the details of the project and the implication of new media to fight radicalization processes, that is to say, the core of today's event, I think we should have a general look at the project and the role it plays within the framework of the European policies. Why that? Because in my opinion, the Open Project and the framework it has been developed in represents an outstanding change of course. The Treaty on the Functioning of the European Union declares as one of the European Union's objectives is to ensure high level of security. And precisely to make this security an operational reality, the Internal Security Fund was funded. But it's only in June 2016 when the Commission made a decision showing a clear change of approach, change of attitude. And this is when the Civil Society Empowerment Program was set up. This specific program used the positive power and the tremendous reach of the internet to empower civil society and empower grassroots organizations to provide effective alternatives to the messages coming from violent extremists and terrorists. Because in many cases, civil society organizations are already active in providing alternative narrative and alternative voices, but they often lack the capacity and the resources to produce and disseminate these messages, especially if these messages are expected to be communicated online. And here comes the Open Project, whose aim was to fight against online radicalization among Muslim youth in Europe through a community-based social communication campaign. So the Open Project has been developed under both the ISF program, so the Internal Security Fund program, and the CSAP program, the Civil Society Empowerment Program, which is something remarkable because of the implications of these 2 programs. It has been implemented between January 2020 and April 2022 by a multicultural team represented by 5 non-profit organizations. 2 of these organizations represented local Muslim communities, and in any case, the partners worked with youth, with local communities in Rome, Nice, Strasbourg, Elche, and Berlin. These teams firstly developed a preliminary research activity to show the ongoing processes in terms of radicalization, mechanisms, and polarization processes among young population in selected and in the mentioned cities. And also presented actions that CSOs and policymakers should take to build increasingly resilient and tolerant societies. So on the basis of these outputs, training and communication activities were outlined to enable local communities to spread the counter-narratives and the counter-narrative strategies among local youth. But let's be honest. There are many programs and there are many projects with the same aim as Open. So it's not the objective itself that makes Open a special project. On the contrary, the innovative side of the Open project is that this aim is achieved through a community-based approach, which has been used to carry out an online communication campaign, together with a training program to empower practitioners and youth on now becoming social activists. So the reach of this project is not just the short term, but also the medium and long term, because in addition to an online communication campaign, also training programs have been developed in order to enable current and future beneficiaries of the project to become social activists and to apply in the future the major outputs of the Open project. This is what we developed so far because we believe that the fight against radicalization comes hand in hand with establishing a peace-building process at society level. The insufficiency, or in some cases even the counterproductivity of traditional security approaches is today clear. And when I speak about traditional security approaches, I mean securitanistic approaches. Because since radicalization is a phenomenon mainly affecting young adults in their teens and 20s, frontline practitioners working with youth and the youth itself are key players in securing the success of these community-based approaches. So youth and practitioners working with youth are to be considered the levers of current and future change. But these actors, in many cases, do not have the skills to make the difference. So in Open, we try to build the skills and make them understand what great power they have. So to sum up, after a preliminary research task, an online awareness raising campaign was developed by the members and the volunteers of the civil society organizations involved in the project, guided by Ares 2.0, which as a communication agency was the expert in the social communication campaigns. The peer-to-peer campaign was developed thanks to this close cooperation involving practitioners, young people, members of the local Muslim communities, And they all together implemented this online campaign, but also animated selected offline events, which were used to drive the target attention to the online campaign. The campaign spread to new narratives. We found crucial for the fight against radicalization. The first one was a new narrative about, let's say, the real face of Islam. Islam as a religion of peace, tolerance, diversity, rather than the religion of violence and extremists, as it's usually mainstreamed by the media, and not just the media, but also by the extremist groups themselves. On the other hand, the other new narrative that we try to foster through our communication campaign was the concept of social and cultural diversity of the Muslim community as a plus and a source of pride for the community itself. Indeed, being a Muslim, being a European Muslim, sometimes is perceived as a contradiction among second-generation youth in Europe. And these people often face problems of belonging and problems of identity. And this is dangerous because it's one of the factors often leading to polarization and radicalization processes. So within this framework, and within the framework of these activities, the project involved more than 15 volunteers, 200 young Muslims in both online and offline events, and more than 20,000 people reached through the online campaign of Facebook and Instagram. These are the, let's say, the major points related to the Open Project. And now I would like to leave the floor to Umberto, who will give us a picture about the main outputs of the applied research that represented the root of the communication strategy. I have been just, let's say, scratching so far. So thank you very much. And I'll give the floor to Umberto.